Freddy was the youngest of 9 children born to J.V. and Lizzie Simon in Colwich, Kansas back in 1925.
My brothers beat up on me and my sister spoiled me.
Freddy's background is typical for the men and women of his generation who value service and sacrifice and believe in the power of hard work.
When Pearl Harbor was in 1941 and I was a sophomore at Mays, every one of us wanted to get in the service. I mean, if we could have got in, we'd have been in. So I waited till I was 18, and I wanted to be a fighter pilot really bad. But when we were 18, a couple of my buddies and I went up to Kansas City to try to get into the Navy Air Corps. And I passed everything. They both flunked the mental exam, and I passed everything. And I was a little colorblind. The guys up there said, well, try the Army. They're not quite as strict. So we all went down there. They both flunked the mental exam. I passed everything. I graduated, I think, the 30th of June. And I went right up to Leavenworth and got in the Army and sent over to Fort Riley. When I first got there, they said, do you want to be in the horse cavalry or the walking? I said, I don't want to take care of a horse. I never did like horses too much. So yeah, they had that option even.
Now, did you have mechanized?
They had mechanized. They were starting to get tanks and armored cars and stuff like that too. But yeah, most of mine was infantry. I started in right after the 1st of July, and ended right before Christmas. And I got to come home for Christmas for a week, and then they shipped me right to San Francisco. And I was there about 2 days, and they put us on a converted ship, which was, I mean, it was the SS Washington, I think it was. It was a really nice ship. But there were 10,000 troops on this ship.
10,000 men on one ship?
On one ship. We were in all little bunks and stuff like that. We'd have a row of bunks, and I mean, it was just a mattress. I mean, not a mattress, but a stretched out cloth. And if you got the top and you fell out, you're in trouble. And we got to come out. We got to come aboard outside twice a day. And we left there in, let's see, that was in January of 1944. And we zigged. This ship was fast enough they could outrun submarines, so we had no submarine coverage at all. And we zigzagged all the way to New Guinea. Yeah. I wasn't lucky enough to stop at Hawaii. And I was going to whip the old Japanese Army all by myself.
What was your basic pay? How much did they pay you a month?
Oh, I think I was getting $22 a month when I first went in.
Okay, and you went in as is it a buck private or a private?
I was just a plain old private. They didn't have any docks or anything. We landed, and they'd send small boats out, and with a full pack, and your gun and everything, you had to climb down this rope. And I said, well, I'm gonna whip the whole Japanese Army by myself. When I hit that deal, and I said, I want to go home. I said, this isn't for me. And our first operation was to take the Admiralty Islands, which is about 200 miles off of the coast of New Guinea. The 5th Regiment of the 1st went to Admiralty's first. They made the landing, and they took over the airstrip. That was what MacArthur really wanted more than anything. They took us in a little boat. There was about 7 of us that were kind of replacements coming in. We heard all kind of shooting when we hit the land there, and we crawled in this foxhole. Most of it was made in this coconut deals, trunks, and we heard all kind of shooting, and pretty soon I saw this guy, a Hispanic kid, dragging this guy back to the deal, and he said, this was a BAR man, and he's hurt real bad, and we need to get him back to the mainland, or to the hospital, the mainland, or the main island. And he said, you are now the BAR man. He stuck the thing in my hands, and that's how I became the BAR man.
He helped defeat the Japanese as a Browning automatic rifleman during World War II.
It's an outstanding weapon. It saved my life many times. After we took the main island around Sealer Harbor, we had to go Troop A, that's what I was in, Troop A, 12th Regiment of the 1st KF. Troop A was given this deal to go to an island that was probably 5 miles long and 5 miles wide, and you didn't know if how many Japs were on it or if there were any at all. So we go over there and they let us off, and we start running patrols, and there was a plantation house there. So the officers took that over real quick, and we put up our tents and everything like that. So we were hoping that we'd be able to stay there a while because it was a beautiful island. It had a dock, and the water was just clear as could be. So the first thing we did was build a diving board on the port. So we were on vacation for at least 2 weeks. And we had a guy sitting up on the diving board watching the mainland to see if there was any boats coming. If there was, then we'd all get in get back to where we were supposed to be. But we had about a week's vacation there, and we'd take dynamite. This water is so clear you could see these schools of fish, and we'd drop dynamite, and these fish would come to the top. So we'd have fresh fish. I think there was 3 cows on the island. The Texans had those butchered in about this first day, and so we had beef. We were living in heaven. And then they sent us back, and then we start going on the bad patrols again.
Okay. When you say bad patrols, what would a patrol be like for you? How many men would be on a?
Usually they'd either have a squad, which is like 8 or 9 guys, or a platoon, which is about 25 or 30 guys. And you'd go, all there was just little old jungle paths. And they always had a scout. And our scout was San Miguel. He was a Hispanic guy, one of the bravest men I ever knew in my life. He was from Texas. There were a lot of Texans in the first Cav. And he wouldn't move out. The BR guy is usually about the 5th guy out back in the patrol. He wouldn't move out unless I was right behind him. And I swear he could smell Japs. Because he was probably 25 and I was 19 by then, I guess. He called me Sonny. That's how young I was. And we'd be going along there. Sonny, get down. I said, what's the matter? I can smell them. They're up ahead of us. And he said, I'm going to shoot with my rifle, and you be ready. And he'd shoot, and these guys would jump up, and I'd just, that VAR. He was something else.
What caliber of a round would a BAR be?
30.
A 30 caliber?
30 caliber.
How many rounds in a clip?
20 rounds in a clip, and I had 6 clips on each side of me. We probably had everything pretty under control by July or August. So we started training for a landing. They wouldn't tell us where we were going to go, but they said it was pretty serious business. But in the meantime, they had this airstrip there, and these B-24s, the 4-engine B-24s, were doing runs on Truck Island and some of those islands that hadn't been taken yet. And so we went over there one day to visit, and the captain said, hey, my buddy and I said, you guys want to be a gunner on one of these B-24s? And, oh man, that'd be great. About that time, one of them started coming in. It was kind of wobbling and wiggling and wobbling and wiggling, and had holes in it about that big from the anti-aircraft. And I said, no, I don't think we want to be a gunner on the B-24. So we went back. Then in October, they loaded us on these ships, and still didn't tell us where we were going. They said it's a pretty big deal, though, and about a week out, they told us we were going to be on the first wave at Leyte, going back to the Philippines. We did that on October 20th of 1944. I was the 6th man off the first boat to hit the beach. They pounded that beach with battleships. All the Air Corps just beat it up. You wouldn't think anybody would possibly be able to live. We got on there and we start receiving fire. Fortunately, we used the shell holes for foxhole, ready-made foxhole. All right, then we went into the mountains of Leyte. We had tanks, but we got in about 100 yards and there were swamps, so that took care of the tanks. So we were on our own there. We walked through swamps about like that, and Norma Jean always asked me, "Well, how did you keep your clothes clean?" I said, "Well, we'd get to a river that was pretty good, and they'd strip off, and wash our clothes, and put them back on and go." This whole island is like that.
Just hills and valleys.
Yeah,
and
hills and valleys.
Jungle.
And you always have to. your deal is to get the
Get the high ground.
highest fountain.
Get the high ground.
High ground, yeah. So we knew what we had to do the next day. We had to go get the high ground where they were.
Did you experience any incoming mortar attacks or anything like this?
Not too much mortar, but a lot of machine gun fire and rifle fire, grenades.
Well, at night,
and then banzai. They banzai us a couple of times.
Really?
Just come at you, hollering and yelling and everything that big.
That's what I was going to say. Could you describe to us what that would sound like or what that would look like?
Oh man, it's undescribable. I mean, it's just the scariest thing you ever thought of in your life.
How many people would be coming at you?
Oh, 25 at a time or something like that. They're just ridiculous. And the next morning we woke up and we looked out and there was looked like about 102 engine Japanese bombers coming at us. And we said, oh my God, I hope they're not after us. I think they were going to try to get the ships in the harbor from the landing, the supply ships and all the warships there. But about that time, 40 of our P-38s come buzzing out, and you could just see Mitsubishi's just blowing up all over the place. And the empty shells from the fighters were falling in our foxholes. And every time they'd knock one down, we'd get up and clap, which is stupid because there were Japs on the other ridge you could have shot at. They were shooting at it. But there's one Mitsubishi got through to where the beach, and they got shot down by the anti-aircraft right quick, so they just wiped them out. And we got out up in the hills there, and we were cut off by the Japanese, and at that time you didn't have all this radio stuff. You had wires. They got behind, cut us off. They took over our, you're always on a hill too, and we had dug our foxhole and went to the next hill, and they cut us off, and they took over our hill, our foxhole. So we tried to take the hill back a couple times and got beat back, lost some people. So we crawled up there at night, real early in the morning before light. And we knew exactly where those foxholes were and how they were situated and everything. We rushed the hill and took the hill, and we didn't lose one GI on that rush back. There was like 115 Japs in that up there. So there's one other little issue there. We were sent on patrol. There was probably 10 of us in this patrol. They were getting a lot of artillery fire from the Japanese in this valley, so we went down, and 10 of us. And we were probably 2 or 3 miles from our bivouac area where our foxholes were. And they had a couple of replacements, and I said, you got to be quiet. And about that, we heard a lot of Japanese yakking, jabbering, and we all got down. They passed from about here to that garage over there. There's about over 100 of them. And they didn't detect us, so we went back, snuck up to our deals, and they brought the artillery on it, and we could have got cut off there too. So it took us 3 months to take Leyte, and it's only like 15 miles wide and about 30 miles long. There's 4 divisions that hit the beach on D-Day. The 1st Cav and the 24th Division, the 7th and the 37th. Bill and I and Junior got to go over for the 60th anniversary of the landing in 2004, and that was really something.
What was that like to be back?
Oh, that was. I told Bill, I said, now we'll probably from Manila, we'll probably have to take a little prop plane down to Leyte, because when we were there, the engineers couldn't even get a airstrip good enough that fighter planes could fly on it. They just sink when they land. That's how much rain they got and everything. We got on a 727. It was one of the most beautiful airports I've ever seen.
Wow.
MacArthur Monument is right where we landed, where they have him coming on shore. He landed about 6 hours after we did. We were through the swamps already by the time he got there. They start saluting us and everything else, and I said, I'm just a PFC, you don't have to salute me. He said, you guys are our heroes. I mean, you saved us from
terrible things. I mean, these people were just demolishing us and killing us and everything.
I don't ever remember sleeping over there. But this one time, we took this hill, we were on there, and Junior and I dug our hill, and there's some replacements come in because some of our guys were getting hit. So we said, okay, you build yours about 6 feet that way, and you two guys, you build yours for that. And I said, now, you can't go to sleep because those Japanese will crawl in the foxhole with you and get you in. So Junior and I went sound asleep. And we'd hear them shoot every once in a while. They'd probably shooting the noises in the jungle or something like that. So we had a good night's sleep. And that's the only night I ever remember sleeping.
Just progressively went from hedgerow to hedgerow, or
hill to hill.
Hill to hill, rather.
Yeah. You know, I tried to get the high points, and most of them were really dug in. It's something. We finally got over into they call it the Ormoc Valley, and we were all pushing the same way. And we finally, with the help of the Air Corps, and they kept sending replacements in. The Japanese did, and a lot of their replacements were getting sunk by the Air Corps and the Navy, thank God. And 3 of the aircraft carriers were sunk. It said it was the largest naval battle this country has ever seen. But if you ever get a chance to read that story...
Is that the Battle of Leyte Gulf?
That was the Battle of Leyte Gulf, yeah. And we didn't even know that was going on, see.
Yeah.
But they would have cut us off, we'd have been gone. And
well, you guys were in the jungle and stuff, and,
yeah,
and a lot of these bodies are, I mean, they're dead bodies all over the place.
Yeah.
Is there some way you can describe what death smells like?
Oh, you get accustomed to it. Hell, I've seen some of our guys sit on a dead body and eat his lunch. You just get turned off of that. I think you go a little crazy, really.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot of that in your training, too, that you just don't have to, you don't want to worry about that kind of stuff. I mean, war is hell, no matter what you say.
There's no other way to put it. War is hell.
It is. It really is.
Kill or be killed.
Yep, that's the motto. Kill or be killed.
And the 1st Cavalry was the first ones to hit Manila. And there's about 3 other divisions trying to make it because all their generals wanted to say we were first in Manila. But the 1st was first. And the day before we got there, I read later that there was a Marine pilot, and he put a little note in his goggles, and he flew real low over the deal and dropped it, and it said, "There's going to be a hot time in the old town tonight." And then the prisoners heard the people saying, "God bless America," and everything, so they knew something was coming on that deal.
Freddy escaped death twice during an assault in Manila, once by suffering a shrapnel injury to his leg, another when a sniper bullet came his way.
And we were on the outside just banging away, and I was shooting all at once. I thumped him. I said, "I'm dead." Hit me real hard, and it burned me, and I looked down. A sniper that went through one of my clips, didn't set the ammunition off, stuck in the other one. My mother must have been really praying hard at that time. 2 or 3 inches either way, and I'd have been gone.
He still has that bullet to this very day.
You don't know if you're going to make it or not. I always had a lot of prayers coming, so I was a lucky guy.
During his service, Freddy was awarded both the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart. The Purple Heart was given to him for a situation that happened in the Philippines.
We had just taken the Manila Hotel, and that's the hotel where MacArthur had his offices on the top story, on the top 5th floor. And the Japanese had just ransacked his old offices. And as we were going out, MacArthur came up to see the deal, and I saluted him, and he saluted me back. I was really proud about that, because he was always a hero of mine.
Right when they reached the street, an artillery barrage hit the entire group.
And the shell hit right in the middle of us. I mean, we were both tossed up in the air. My canteen had a hole about like that. I had shrapnel all through my pack. I thought, well, I got the $1 million wound. That's what we call it if you got wounded bad enough to live but get sent back. And they looked at it and said, "Oh, we're very short of troops. We'll just patch it up so they put a little
and they field dressed his wounds and sent him right back to the front lines. He even helped carry more severely wounded that day.
The next thing we were on bridge guard. No, we went to Antipola. It's about 40 miles out of Manila, and it was a recreational place. It's just hills and valleys and stuff. So we got up there, and Troop A was on this one hill, and we all dug our foxhole. Junior and I, being old veterans, we dug ours about that deep. All once we heard this from the other ridge, we heard this whoop, 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 whoop. That's mortars, and here they come. And in about 2 seconds, we had that foxhole about that deep. But our whole troop was on it, and then the Air Corps and the artillery would just blast that where that was coming from. And about as soon as they'd quit, here the mortars came again. So then, and fortunately, not one mortar hit in a foxhole. I don't know how that happened either, but because they powdered that ridge up there. And we went down, we had to take it, and it was tough. I mean, the flamethrowers and the BAR and a lot of brave guys, we finally took those hills. They had dug back in those hills and put little railroad tracks. They put their mortars on the little railroad track, and they'd scoot them out, shoot the mortars, and as soon as the artillery would come, they'd run them back in the hill, in the cave. And then they told us that our next was start training landings and stuff for Japan. That was going to be our next spot. But we had won the Battle of the Philippines, and that was in about this time, July. And then August, I think it was August 14th, that first atom bomb hit. They still didn't surrender, and then the next one about 4 days later, and then they surrendered, and it was the greatest day of my life.
But you were being trained to
make the landing. We were scheduled to be on the first wave at Kaishu Island, which is the southern tip of Japan, and we had learned later that the Japanese were going to put all their women and kids with any kind of weapon they can get a hold of on the beaches, and the armies were going to be like 10 miles back, and they had 5,000 kamikaze planes, and this time they were going to go after the troop ships. So that would have been, I'd never be here if that had happened. We came home, I had enough points. You got so many points for everything when you're in the Army. And I had the Purple Hearts, that was 5 points, and I was in combat a lot. And so I was in Tokyo, and Junior and I both had enough points to get on the first boat coming home. The first cav was staying there, so they put us in an infantry division and sent us home. That was in October of 1945. And this time we went the north route, and it took us 6 days. When we came to the Golden Gate Bridge, horns were blasting. 2 boatloads of dancing girls and bands came alongside and took us all the way into the camp. Had the biggest dinner we ever had in our life, the big dance. They had all the gals from the college there out. They put us on a train the next day, and my brother was in the hospital in Denver, so my mother and dad drove up there. In Wyoming, we had so many troops on this thing, the train couldn't get us up the hill, so they had everybody get out. They backed down and made a run and got up on top of the hill, and we all had to get back on. We didn't say one word. Didn't say, that's fine with us. Let's get on that train. And I got to get back with my mother and dad and my brother, and took me home. And I remembered what my dad said when I didn't. I always told him, I said, Dad, I don't like this farming stuff. He said, what do I do? He said, you go to school. So as soon as I got back, I enrolled at that time it was still Wichita University. And I just stayed in school until I got through in 4.5 years. Got married while I was still in school, and had 1 child before I was a very lucky guy. My mother did a lot of praying. She got all 4 of us back home.
But sadly, not everyone Freddy knew came home. A lot of his friends did not.
Well, wars are funny. You very seldom know what the generals are doing. You're always concerned about the 2 guys right next to you in your little troop. I mean, you get so close to those guys, it's unbelievable. I might cry. Shouldn't do that.
One of his war buddies who did survive he talks to this very day.
His birthday was the 22nd of February and mine was the 24th. We were 2 days apart. Spent 2 of our birthdays in foxholes getting shot at.
These are stories Freddy kept inside for 58 years. He didn't tell his wife, his children, or even his brothers who are also combat veterans. After meeting another war veteran who convinced him to use his experiences to teach others, he began to open up. Freddy now visits high schools to talk to students about his involvement in World War II and what it meant to him to defend our country. In fact, he's spoken to more than 50 history classes over the past few years.
I think they should hear about that and learn about how important freedom is. I mean, it's just, and it seems like we just get a little bit taken away from us every day. It's kind of sad. And just remember that. You can do anything you want to. This is the United States of America. Keep it free, okay? Please keep it free. Freedom is so... I saw freedom happen the third day in Tokyo when these people came out of their houses and stuff and did all these things for us. They couldn't... They thought we were going to torture them like they did our people. And they found out they had freedom, and it was the greatest thing I ever saw in my life. I mean, I saw freedom happen, and I'll never forget that. Because I said it's over with, and I made it home. Some of my buddies didn't, but a lot of them did. And you got to think, I've always been a pretty positive guy. Saying, war is hell. You work hard and get rid of all those bad thoughts. I'm gonna cry again. I don't cry. I never cry. Anyway, we're a very fortunate family. It's unbelievable. I was a very lucky guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the man, the legend himself, Freddy is in the building.
Freddy hugs. I'm that best looking one, the third from the right. No, up. There you go.
And when they take a picture, you say, Freddy.
Freddy has also come up with a list of what he calls Freddyisms. It's kind of like his version of life lessons and wisdom that he wants to pass on to others.
Number 1, love, obey, and thank your parents and teachers for your success. 2, smile, even though times get tough occasionally. It is a proven fact that smiling adds at least 7 years to your life and wins friends. 3, work hard and study hard in the future. 4, be prompt. People do not like to wait. 5, from the very beginning, demonstrate solid work ethics in your job or profession. 6, take a few classes in public speaking, regardless of your major. I wish I would have. Also a class or two in sales. You're always trying to sell something. Number 7, return all of your telephone calls, even when you know they might be negative. Turn that negative call into a positive. It works. It has for me many times. Number 8, vote in every election after you have checked out the candidates and the issues. Number 9, always be patriotic and do all you can to keep your country free. You live in the greatest and best country in the world. Number 10, remember you are all achievers or you would not be here. Keep that going. Number 11, always tell the truth. Number 12, pray a lot. You will be surprised at the power of prayer. Number 13, always remember you are a very unique person. There is no one like you in the whole world. Number 14, add your own isms that have helped make you successful. Then after following all of these rules and some of your own, have your sons like Randy and Bill Simon and their partner Scott Redler start a successful business venture and name it after you like they did for me. That business is Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steaksburger. Isn't that great? Number 16, I almost forgot the most important ism of all.
exercise and keep in shape so you can enjoy Freddy's frozen custard and steak burgers at least once or twice a week.
That's awesome.
Freddy back from Freddy. The basketball team and the cheerleader. 5 sons and a daughter. Thanks for coming in.